my advice would be for Micah would be, just make sure we're all right, and being where your feet are. Because if we're at work and, the run game's terrible, but you're doing a podcast every week and the run game is terrible, then, what are you really caring about? Are you caring about the crowd that is watching your podcast? Are you caring about the success of our team and the Super Bowl that we're trying to reach?
Whoa. Well, Micah responded with this post. I just wish you said this to me, but instead on some podcast, and you got my number, family, and you're my locker mate, so you could have just said this any day, and you do realize I shoot the podcast on our off day. Why are we talking about everyone's preparations and focus? Shady. Is it a big deal or no deal that Micah Parsons was called out by his teammate?
I'm going to say it's a big deal, right? And a lot of different reasons. One is, when you're the best player in the team, which I think Micah is, and Hooker's like he's okay, right? Like, for you to speak on me publicly is a problem. Because why are you talking about me? First of all, they know who I am. You know who I am. Why are you talking about me like that? Yo, you my locker mate? Yo, that means like... So in football, in locker mates, we get dressed at the same time. We talking, we jump in the shower, pause to say, like we locker mates. So why are you talking about me in an ill way, in a bad way to the public when I'm right next to you though? You have my phone number. We on the same side of the ball on defense. And then another part is, no matter what I do, bro, whatever how I operate on my off time, right? For you to address that to the public, I hate it. Just because in the defensive meeting rooms or whatever office, wherever it may be, whose side the coach gonna go on, right? Because it don't help Hooker at all. Think about it, though, for a second. We in there, I don't feel comfortable with him, coach. Yeah, I can't trust him. Why can't you trust him? Well, we locker mates, we teammates, we on the same side of the ball, and he'd rather go to a podcast and talk about me and tell me when I'm doing something wrong than just holler at me.
Yeah.
Right? New coordinators and all that, right? They just came off a loss, an embarrassing loss to the Packers in the playoffs. Yeah. You want everything to be optimistic going forward to the season. This is not. So if you ask me, is it a big problem? It has to be. Michael Parsons is probably one of the best players we've ever seen in a long, long time, right? I was hanging out with Hugh Green, one of the greats from Pittsburgh, and we were talking about all the special players, and we were talking about Michael Parsons. He's from the same city. We were talking about him. And I'm just thinking, like, any team I've ever been on, we have a generational talent. We're not sitting here talking about him in a bad light. Because if Hooker's saying that, that means that's going around the locker room with his homeboys, not the superstars, some of the okay players. And I don't like that because going forward, you need everybody to win. And if you're going to talk about the captains and the best players on the team, you'll talk about anybody. And if I'm the coach, I can't have nobody around me like that.
Yeah, it's tricky because I really don't understand the problem with it. And then this is the new trend. Everyone has a podcast. Everyone has outlets. They want to use their voice if they feel compelled to do so, and they should. And this is not going to stop. Like, this is going to continue to happen. And I like that Micah has this. And at this point, he does do it on his off day. There's a lot of worse things you could be doing on your off day than having a podcast. And he's preparing himself for his future and all these other things. But the issue that I have with it is that Micah is clearly saying, like, hey, you had opportunities to tell me how you felt about this to my face, and you did it. I'm a very much to my face person. If you have something to say behind my back and you don't say it to my face, well, what am I supposed to do with that?
Come on now. Come on now.
You had the opportunity to say it and you didn't. So I do think that this is a little interesting because of that particular thing. And to Shady's point, Micah is the face of the organization. So do other players in the organization feel this way about his podcast? And that seems like a conversation that they have to have internally. But James, what do you think about this?
Well, number one, podcast or not, Micah Parsons balls on that football field.
Yeah.
Podcast or not. That's number one.
Come on.
Number two, I don't really care if a teammate calls me out or a teammate gets called out, because I feel like as teammates, a lot of coaches you're around is not necessarily going to call you out. As a teammate, that's your job to call them out, but not publicly. Like, for me, I'm all about, if I have something going on with Shady and say Shady been fumbling or whatever it is, I'm not going to go on no podcast like, yeah, man, Shady been holding the ball like that in practice. No, maybe I'll come to Shady, especially you be in my locker area, like, bruh, hey, you been fumbling now with that ball loose, man, get that thing high and tight. Or TJ, hey, man, look that ball, whatever it may be. To him, I'm telling you, I hate, because it's happened plenty of times. I hate when players come out and talk to podcasts on TV about the players in the locker room. I absolutely hate it, because nobody knows the full story. All they listening to is your story. They don't know the full story. Nobody knows the work Micah's putting in, but you can see it on the football field. Nobody knows that. Micah could watch hours and hours of film on his off day before his podcast. Nobody knows that on how to stop the run. Nobody knows that. So the best thing you could do is come to him personally, and especially with him being this close to you in your locker room, come to him and talk to that. I hate when players come out to podcasts, TVs, or whatever, and talk about players. I don't care if they stars. I don't care if they regular. I don't care what they are. Talk to your teammate. If you feel like something ain't right, talk to him. That's just how I am.
I mean, he is essentially saying he's not prepared and focused. I mean, that's like he's saying that if they're struggling, it's because Micah is distracted. TJ, what do you think?
He said he needs to basically worry about the run game as if the run game defense all falls on Micah Parsons. He essentially is like, you doing this podcast and we can't stop the run because of you. This can be a really big problem, and I'm going to say it's not going to be because I believe they both had the same agent in David Mulugheta, and that's why when Micah tweeted this, he erased it. Probably Dave called him and got him on the phone. But you right next to me every single day. All you got to do is say, bruh, you probably shouldn't do the podcast. We're not doing too good on defense. It's kind of lock in. I might not like it. I might not even listen to you. But at least I know that's how you feel.
Right.
And then you go publicly and say this. I got a problem with you because, like Shady said, I'm the best player on the team.
Right.
If I really wanted to, I'm like, I don't want to play with Malik Hooker no more. It's either him or me. And what you think they gonna do?
Yeah, and not only that, rest in peace. Yeah. He gotta go.
And so that's the thing. And it's again what he said. Malik Hooker got homies on that team. He got friends on that team that he really chill with.
Bing, bing,
they
bing.
talk about it. They talking about this. And so I don't know their relationship. I don't know, does he regret saying this, Malik Hooker? But you can't do this when it's your best player. You can talk about him. It's better talk about him privately and amongst you. You can't say this publicly because moving forward, they have to get along. Their relationship will never be the same. Never. We can stay on the same team. Hey, what's up? Boom, keep it pushing. We not hanging out. You're not going to have that relationship the way it needs to be, especially on defense when everybody needs to rely on each other because of this. And Micah Parsons, if he wasn't as good, he couldn't do this podcast. He's earned it.
That's true, too.
He's earned it.
Because a point that you're saying is like sometimes on the run game, they're trying to go at Micah. Because how else can you beat him? You can't block him in the passing, right? And if you run away from him, he's going to run it down.
Chase it down.
So if you've seen the successful run plays, a lot of it's at Parsons, right? Yep. And I'm thinking like, okay, so maybe they haven't been good on run defense, which they haven't. You going to blame all of it on Micah? Right now, some of that he gets to blame for that because he's the best player. But I just feel like if we boys and we teammates, maybe we're not boys, but if we teammates, it's a certain respect level. Because, like, you can't talk about, it's some players I played with that was really, really great, but they had some deficiencies in some areas, right? And teams wanted to take advantage of it. I can't sit here and talk about this player. He's our best player. We need him, right? Now, we're not sitting here talking about Hooker and stuff he's doing bad. It's probably, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but I'm sure I can find more things about him than I can find about Micah Parsons.
Hey, they played 17 games. He had 50 tackles. And
the last thing is this. I do think that sometimes as players, right, we get so caught up in our own thing, because I don't think there's nothing wrong with the podcast, right? But it's always about how, Andy always says, he says, it's how it looks. So if got the podcast, I'm the best player, I got everything booming, right? Everybody's watching me. But then we losing games and we're not stopping the run. It's like, well, what's more important here? Now, Micah could be watching all day tape, right? Practicing hard as hell, but the results are on defense. We're not stopping the run, and I'm the best player. I get the blame for it. So I get the point he's trying to make. This is the way you do things,
but not only that, though, when guys come out and say this stuff publicly, then now you put the magnifying glass on that player.
That's true, too.
So as great as Micah is, now people may put the magnifying glass on him and say, oh, he is jumping out of gaps. Is he that good? Is it his fault? Now all that stuff starts to happen, and then now you divide in the locker room. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say come to the player directly, because this can stir up a bunch of stuff.
And last thing real quick, Joy, he's made me think of some also. So now Dallas is the biggest brand in sports, in my opinion. They're one of them.
They are.
Okay, so football is small right now. There's nothing going on. So we're arguing about mini camps, if you should go or not, right? when we get to camp, okay, or when we get to the first game of the season, we play the Eagles. and they have a bad game against the Eagles running the ball. You get what I'm saying? And Saquon goes for 150, something like that, and they lose. Yeah. They're going to ask, not only going to ask Micah about it, they're not going to ask Hooker about it, they're going to ask the whole defense, the head coach. So now I got to answer questions because of my two players having a small little issue about a podcast or not. You get what I'm saying? It makes a bigger issue in the locker room.
You know what's crazy?
Distractions.
Every player is doing something with his time off.
Right.
We not just football. It's on a Tuesday. That's your day off.
I'm in them streets. Yeah, I'm in them
So
streets.
if I spend an hour and a half, 2 hours shooting a podcast, if I wasn't doing that, I'd be out. I'd be playing a video game. I'd be doing whatever. Michael is young. Micah's young. The fact that he's shooting take an hour and a half, what is the problem with it? There's no problem with that.
There isn't, which is why I said earlier, like, there's a lot of worse things he could be doing with his time. We all do media. We know how long it takes to shoot a podcast. It's maybe 2 hours of maybe 2 hours of your day, and you have people helping you. Like, you're not. It's not that much time or distraction, but it's visible. If you are streaming that you're playing on video games for 6 hours on your off day, then maybe people would talk about that. It's visible, so people think that it is more. There's more that goes into it than it does. But you could be doing all kinds of things. You could be running a separate business. You could be doing a whole list of things that we all know guys do on their off days, which is their off days. They're allowed to do it.
Isn't this like a separate business? Almost, right?
No, it is. But I think the issue is, obviously, that he could have the opportunity to say this to him in person. But when you highlight it, when you say, okay, this podcast is the reason, like, there's a correlation to him doing this podcast and us losing, and Micah is the best player on the team and the most visible player and the leader, that is really the issue with it. Like, how do you move past that? And every time he does the podcast now, when they do lose, nothing is everything, everything is something, right? When you're winning, no one cares that you're doing a podcast. When you're losing, people are like, oh, okay, maybe the podcast is a distraction. But when you have players on the team saying that it's a distraction, is there another element to it where, as you guys have all said, are other people in the locker room saying this podcast is a distraction?
I think so. For him to come out and say this publicly, I think he's talking to his certain little group that he talks to, that he's close with in that locker room, and they saying, man, yeah, bro, on this podcast, stirring up all this stuff, doing this and all that, and we weak in the run game. And then now that goes to, we're not in the film room right now. Now that could go to, oh, he jumped out his gap on this one. Or he went, whatever it may jump out to, and now the spotlight is on Micah, as great as Micah is. One thing I do know about Micah is I don't think this podcast is messing with his play.
No.
We can watch 18 games, 17 games, however many games is in the season, and you turn on the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons is going to show up.
He's the best
more than anybody on that football team consistently. So it's not messing with the way he plays. The only thing this does is, like I say, in the locker room, it's going to raise eyebrows. Now when you get on them fields, even if Malik Hooker comes down and is in the box and misses a tackle, the spotlight going to be on him.
I doubt it.
You know, like I said, if Micah jumps...
I just hate that, though. Like, I have a hard time, even like sometimes on TV when certain people say different things, it is how you say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could have said it in a different way, and he could have said it to Micah privately. Because, like for real, let's keep it real. Why are you talking on Micah, though? We ain't even in the same ballpark. We ain't in the same class. The only thing is, I play defense, you play defense, and I got to start with him, you got to start with him. We nothing alike. Talk to them other people like that, right? Talk about the other guys not as good as me. I'm Micah Parsons. You know that? You know what that is? You know who I am? What's wrong with you? Yeah, just apologize or you going. Come on. You can text him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate people like that. Like, yo, my man, we're not even in the same class.
I just don't understand why
everybody
like that.
You crazy?
But this is the day and age.
Not argue. Is you crazy?
Like, this is the day and age we in. If you're a good player and this is something you want to do, you just do it. Like, this is the players of today's social media being able to get their message out themselves.
You create your own platform.
You create it yourself. I don't have a problem with it.
But I'm just saying, why is all these players so just quick to just run the social media instead of just come straight to the person? And you my locker mate. That's the crazy thing to me.
Yeah. And you're not great. Sorry.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.